Picture this. You're building a wooden ramp. You know the exact height you want the ramp to reach, and you've got the exact length of the wooden boards you're using for the surface. But to make it fit perfectly and sit flush against the ground, you have to cut the wood at a precise angle. You have the lengths of the sides, sure, but you have absolutely no idea what that angle is. So how do you find it? This right here is the classic problem. Regular trigonometry gives you the ratio of the sides when you already know the angle. But how do you go backwards? Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how to undo trigonometry using inverse functions. We'll cover the core concepts, master their specific domain restrictions so you never fall into the common testing traps, and learn how to easily solve complex math expressions step by step. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet the Inverse Functions. To solve our real-world ramp problem, we need to introduce a brand new mathematical tool. Think about when you make a typo on your computer. What do? You hit Control-Z. An inverse function is literally the undo button on your mathematical keyboard. In regular trig, your input is an angle, like 30 degrees or pi/6 radians. You plug that into a function, like sine or cosine, and your output is a ratio of the sides, like 1/2. Inverse trigonometry completely flips the script. Your input is the ratio of the sides, and your output is the angle. It takes the output and reverts it right back to the original input. Okay, let's look at the notation. The inverse sine function is written as sine with a -1 exponent, or sometimes you'll see it called arcsine. It just means if x equals the sine of y, then y equals the inverse sine of x. But wait, and this is a very, very important warning, that -1 is not an exponent, meaning reciprocal. Inverse sine of x does absolutely not mean 1 divided by sine of x. 1 over sine is cosecant, which is a totally different concept. The -1 here is strictly a label. It's just a signpost telling us, hey, this is the undo button. But here is where we hit a massive roadblock. For any mathematical function to actually have a true inverse, it has to pass something called the horizontal line test. It must be a 1-to-1 function, meaning every output comes from exactly one input. But think about sine, cosine, and tangent. They're periodic. Their graphs go up and down like ocean waves, repeating forever. So if I ask you what angle gives a sine of 0, well, the answer could be 0, or pi, or 2 pi, or -pi. A calculator can't give you infinite answers. So to create a true inverse, we have to artificially chop up the graphs. We literally have to restrict their domains. Now here's how we lock down those boundaries. I highly recommend taking a quick screenshot of what you're seeing right now. To make inverse sine work, we restrict the original sine graph to output angles only between -pi/2 and +pi/2. That is its restricted range. For inverse cosine, we only look at angles between 0 and pi. And for inverse tangent, we look strictly between -pi/2 and +pi/2. Memorizing these restricted ranges is the absolute key to mastering this topic. Moving right along to Section 2, Special Angles and Calculators. Now that we understand the rules and boundaries of our new undo buttons, how do we actually evaluate them? We can start with the special angles you probably already know from the unit circle. If I ask you to evaluate the inverse sine of 1/2, you just have to ask your brain, what angle, strictly between -pi/2 and +pi/2, gives me a sine ratio of 1/2? Because we know from standard trig that the sine of pi/6 equals 1/2, we can just run the whole thing backwards. The inverse sine of 1/2 is simply pi/6. We are just hunting for that specific, restricted angle. But what if the number isn't some beautiful fraction on the unit circle? What if it's, say, 0.97? Well, that's when we reach for the calculator. But time for a quick retention check. If you plug in the exact same input, inverse sine of 0.97, you can get two completely different numbers depending on your calculator setting. You might get 1.3252 in radians or 75.93 in degrees. The most common mistake students make on exams actually isn't doing the math wrong. It's just having their calculator in the wrong mode. Always check your mode before hitting enter. Okay, Section 3, Solving Right Triangles. Let's connect this back to real life and solve that ramp problem we started with. We finally have the tools to find that exact missing angle for our woodcut. Here is your foolproof step-by-step strategy. First, look at your triangle and identify the sides you know relative to the angle you want. Let's say we know the base of the ramp on the ground. That's the adjacent side. And the length of the ramp itself. That's our hypotenuse. Second, choose the matching function. Adjacent over hypotenuse means we need cosine. Third, write your equation. Cosine of theta equals the adjacent length divided by the hypotenuse length. Want theta by itself? Just hit the undo button. Apply inverse cosine of both sides, plug it into your calculator, and boom, you have your exact cutting angle. Next up, section 4, the composite function track. Now I need your full, undivided attention here because we are entering tricky territory. What happens when we mix these functions together? Students always ask me, hey, if inverse sine is just an undo button, isn't it always true that the inverse sine of the sine of x just equals x? Don't they just perfectly cancel each other out every single time? The answer to that is an emphatic uppercase no. They do not always cancel out. Let's look at a classic trap example, the inverse sine of the sine of 3 pi over 4. If you just carelessly cross them out, you'd guess the answer is 3 pi over 4. But look at the actual answer. It's pi over 4. Why did this happen? Remember our strict boundaries from earlier? The inner function, sine of 3 pi over 4, equals positive root 2 over 2. Now the outer function kicks in and asks, what is the inverse sine of positive root 2 over 2? But inverse sine is strictly restricted to angles between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. 3 pi over 4 is in quadrant 2, which is totally illegal for inverse sine. So the function has to return the equivalent angle in quadrant 1 that gives that same positive ratio. And that angle is pi over 4. You have to always check your restricted ranges. Finally, section 5, mixing different trig functions. All right, we've reached the masterclass concept of this explainer. What happens when you compose a trigonometric function with the inverse of a completely different trigonometric function? Take a look at this expression right here, the sine of the inverse tangent of 7/4. Now you might be wondering, how on earth do we evaluate this without using a calculator? It looks intimidating, I know, but there is a brilliant, foolproof visual trick to solve this every single time. And this brilliantly illustrates the trick. Literally just draw a triangle. We always work from the inside out. The inner function is inverse tangent of 7/4. Remember, an inverse trig function always represents an angle. Let's call it theta. So tangent of theta is 7 over 4. Draw a right triangle. Make the opposite side 7 and the adjacent side 4. Now, step 2. Use the good old Pythagorean theorem to find your missing hypotenuse. 4 squared plus 7 squared is 16 plus 49, which gives us 65. So the hypotenuse is the square root of 65. Now, step 3. The outer function just wants the sine of this triangle we just built. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So our final exact answer is simply 7 divided by the square root of 65. You took a really complex algebraic expression and made it incredibly easy just by sketching a basic triangle. So let's bring it all together. Inverse trig functions are incredibly powerful tools once you learn their rules. They are your mathematical undo buttons for finding missing angles. Remember that we must restrict their ranges so they function properly without giving infinite nonsense answers. Keep in mind that the -1 notation is just a label, not a reciprocal fraction. And whenever you are faced with a weird mix of different functions, just draw a right triangle and trust the Pythagorean theorem. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought. If inverse trig functions exist to undo ratio operations, what mathematical tools might exist to undo the very shape of the triangle itself? Mastering these restricted domains and right triangle tricks right now will make your future calculus classes an absolute breeze, which is exactly why you should click over and check out our next lecture on trigonometric identities.